Can't see the live link. Oh, we are live. We are live now. So hi everybody.
Good evening.
And tonight we're going to be doing some thoughts and talks and chat and questions and so forth about psychic children. So I know there's quite a lot of interesting programs out there in America. We don't get that one, Psychic Kids, here in the UK. But we're going to talk a little bit about psychic children and whether, you know, what our experiences were like when we were children, and some of the experiences of people. We want to know your experiences too. You know, what happens to you when you were a child, perhaps, and have you had children around you who are psychic? And we're going to say hello to everyone first. So Marcia Miller, hello from Indiana, love and light. Looks like you're getting your lights fixed there, Marcia.
Nice car. Hampton Hill in London. Relate. Nana.
Yep.
Hi, Nana.
Hi there. We've been seeing you quite a few times. We've seen you a few weeks. Oh, new one.
Good morning.
Don't recognise you, Jennifer. Nice drawing. Good morning from Guatemala. Oh, wow. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, tell us where you're coming from, guys. It's always interesting to know where you're from.
Hi, Gail from Cyprus.
I think we've seen Gail before, have we?
She's actually been here for a reading with me.
Oh, right. So we've got people we know sometimes.
Yeah.
Andrew Roberts. Yeah, you don't look like an Andrew from your
like
photograph, Andrew.
Tinkerbell.
To be quite honest, but this is my first time live. Many months subscribed, all the way from Chesterley Street.
Where's
Chesterley
that?
Street.
Where is
I don't
that?
know where that is. It sounds French, but I think it could be English.
And his agility.
Agility Bits. Yes, we've seen you quite a few times with us. It's nice
There's those
that
dogs
so many of
again.
you have become regulars. We're going to just chat for a bit, say hello to a few people, you know, just to let everybody get online. And don't forget, if you've got any interesting stories about children and psychic children, or even spirit messages from children, that's also interesting. Yeah, let us know later on. And later on, we'll also open up to general questions as well as just this specific topic. But we'll start off talking about psychic children. Pune in India. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
Frank. Hi, Jane and Craig from Frank from Paul Dorset.
Yeah, you're just down the road from us. That's good. Hiya, Lisa, Milton Keynes. So we seem to have quite a few from England today. Virginia, so I say that, and immediately we get a few from America.
Kathy. Hi, Kathy.
You learn your geography with this YouTube channel. Kentucky. And Georgia. America, Georgia, I suppose. And Warrington. The Meditation Chamber. That's an intriguing name to your mother to have called you.
Anthony.
Anthony. Nice to see you guys. Okay. It's nice to see you all coming online again. And yes, I remember you from Germany before. So we get quite a few regulars. And I know that quite a few thousands of you kind of watch this after we've gone live. So don't forget, if you're new to this and you just catch us late, try to get on live, because it is pretty good when you're here able to answer you can ask your questions and things.
Monica, hello, Monica. Monica's had a reading.
Oh, you've got a few off the go. That's because we've got the Facebook page on, so all your Facebook friends are coming on with us as well. Pune. We had Pune from India, but now we've got a Pune from the Pacific Islands. That can get confusing.
Nice, beautiful.
Yeah, I'd like to be there. It must be the middle of the night in the Pacific now. Living in North Wales, a Geordie. Hi there, Sue.
Oh, hi, Laura. Laura's nice.
So we're going to be doing quite a lot of bits about children today, if you're just joining us.
Someone from Essex.
So you have some thoughts about anything you know about kids, and the psychic kids in particular, and any questions you might like to ask, and the rest of it, So don't forget, we've also got another channel, so keep out for that. I'll mention it a little bit later on. And and we're going to do some new live stuff on PATRON soon too, on Monday. If you're a patron joining us, we're going to have some. I'll be doing some live stuff with you on Monday.
Anne Curtisetta, by the way. From
yeah, I couldn't pronounce these Norwegian names. Swaroop.
When you're going back
an
to
Indian
India,
name, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, I hope. Yeah, I'd like to come back to India again soon. I mean, I'd go all the time, but we can't, of course, at the moment. Like
Sharavan.
Sharavana, who I went to see, is stuck here in England, in London. So it's not easy at the moment. But I'd like to come back again. I'd like to go back to India as much as I can because it intrigues me so much.
Good
And
evening,
Emma from
Emma.
Leicestershire. Hi there, Emma. Right, well, I suppose we better start talking about psychic kids soon.
Right.
Then. Hi from Puerto Rico
Yeah,
too.
I've been to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Texas, USA. Wow, all over. So it's nice we get a few Americans joining us. And don't forget to like and subscribe this channel when you join us, because if you're the first time here, you'll get updates every time, and you'll be able to see us live like this if you get the updates, rather than watch us later on after it's gone live. But if we're still interested in your comments, even if we've gone live already, because it's nice to get your comments about your ideas, your thoughts, if you've had any interesting experiences. And as you'll notice, I do try to reply to as many as I can on the comments, and we do kind of note them also with your stories when we do the other videos on a specific theme. So, psychic kids then, Jane.
Well, we could talk about our childhood when we were very young, how we used to feel and see.
Yeah, I had quite a few experiences as a child. I expect you did too, didn't you? I mean, I used to see auras. That was something I saw from an early age. That sort of, as a child, of course, you don't understand what it is, and your parents certainly don't understand what it is. But I could often see lights around my hand early on, and I would also see lights around people's head early on. And if I asked about it, no one else would comment.
I saw auras too as a child. It was like beautiful colours around the top of people's heads, and also see it around animals too. And I just thought everybody had all that beautiful rainbow sort of colour around them.
Yeah.
And I used to, as a child, pick up people's thoughts too, telepathically.
Because I think, as kids, I think perhaps all
You
of
don't
us
know. You know
get
you're
it, don't
different, but you don't know how different you
Yeah.
are.
Because when I think about childhood, I mean, not only sort of, and I expect others might feel the same with this, but when we're kids, okay, our perceptions are definitely very different. Like there's certain qualities to things like smells and sounds and things that are very different to what it is as an
And
adult.
you brought that through to an adult. Smells.
Yeah, smells. But I mean, like nature and things like that. And I'm not talking about horrible smells. I just, there was, it's hard to explain really, but certain thoughts, feelings, and definitely the perceptions are very different when you're a child. They're almost a little bit like someone taking psychedelics. There's a certain openness to the world that your mind as a child is kind of like completely receptive to things. It certainly was for me, and I think most people have that.
And also as a child, you're sensing events that are going to happen before anybody else, and you get it here in the solar plexus here. And of course, if you tell adults, they don't believe you. In those days, you had a good clip around the ear.
Yeah.
Or like imaginary friends.
But I often think also I was kind of fascinated by what it was like to be a child, because when I look back to when I was a child, my thinking was very different then too. Did you find that you thought differently?
Well,
you didn't think like an adult, of course, but you had intuitive.
When you're a child, your thoughts are pure, and your thoughts are really that you're different, but you don't realise how different you are. You have a fascination with the stars, the moon, and nature, and everything around you, and perhaps more so than what other children have.
Yeah, and I think children's thoughts, and certainly mine were, and I don't know, some of you might think this the same, but I used to find that thoughts would come from out of nowhere, a little bit like the way psychologists have described primitive people's thinking. That thoughts appear as if they're not your own. They come out of nowhere. And I think that's as the personality and the sense of self and I is developing. And so I think as children, we are open to this idea of the bigger self, the universal self, that we are just in a way, not so much separate as we
Mm.
become adults. Do you think, more at
And
one with the world?
another thing I've noticed that healers through their childhood and psychics and people with the gift of clairvoyance, some of them have had fits or epilepsy.
That's been the case with some. I mean, I remember reading Uri Geller's book, and he said he'd had a bang on the head when he was a child.
Trauma.
And I think also, Matthew Manning, the healer, said something like that. I seem to remember. Forgive me if I said something wrong there. But there was quite a few cases of people that have developed psychic abilities after a bang on the head. I mean, I don't think I had any bang on the head. But
I think your mother dropped you on your head.
Yeah, I think she dropped me. That's what my dad used to say.
He's right.
Yeah. Oh, we got some questions already.
Yeah.
My 3-year-old daughter, on a visit to her grandma, asked her where she kept her old mum's sacred puja utensils. After that episode, my mother-in-law insisted that my daughter was her mum reincarnated. Yeah, that's often the case with certainly strong beliefs in that in India, of course, and in Tibet, because one of the things that to identify the Dalai Lama is that they put various things on the table, and although they wouldn't call it puja in Tibet, I don't think, but the similar type of ritualistic stuff.
Or they put things
that Dalai Lama's baby would recognise.
Or they put prayer beads, they put a bell, and they put something else that only the reincarnation of the Lama would know.
Yeah, so it might be something quite dull amongst a lot of glittery things and toys and things, but the child would go for the thing that immediately that he'd remembered from, his mala beads or something like that he'd remembered. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it, that children, I think, are also perceptive. They're perceptive on lots of different psychic things, but one of them is perceptive of previous lives. There's been lots of interesting cases where there's been children who have remembered their previous life. So perhaps we're connected with that.
Emma. When my youngest son was 3, he looked at me one day and said he was an old woman when he died at the age of 93. He can't remember saying it now, but I was amazed at it.
That was 3.
Well, children don't lie, do they?
Yeah.
Because children do see things. And where has that come from?
Yeah, and
past memory.
Interesting when you died at 90. Often, some of the studies done of children who have spontaneous recall of reincarnations, they usually recount sort of previous lives that were kind of dramatic, sudden deaths, painful deaths, unresolved business. And they seem as if they reincarnate perhaps immediately, because I always think that we spend time in the spirit world before we reincarnate again. But perhaps a bit like we were talking last week about ghosts and things having unresolved business, maybe some people incarnate quickly because there's unresolved business, and they kind of trying to sort it out and be reborn sometimes very close to where they lived before.
You don't necessarily come back as a woman. You could come back as a man.
And then there was that, well, we mentioned this one before, but there was that amazing child we met down in Pembroke Way, Lulworth Cove. And he was talking to me and telling me all about his past life in a complete stranger. I felt a bit awkward, come tell me all about, I used to be the king here and we used to rule this area and we did this and did that. And in such vivid detail. And his mum came up and said, is he telling you all about when he was the king? I said, yes. She said, he keeps on about that all the time. And I said, do you think it was a past life? And she didn't seem to put too much importance on it, did she?
No, but it was amazing.
The child was talking in adult terms. He'd have been watching some pretty amazing YouTubes, but he was about 3 years old?
No, I think he's a bit older. No, I think he was about 7. About 7.
You think he was that?
Yeah.
I suppose so, yeah, because he wasn't very big, but he was, yeah.
Midwestern Mary? What does that mean? We have a ghost in our house and our 3-year-old interacts with him. We saged twice, but apparently did it wrong. Now she refuses to sleep in her bedroom most evenings and sleeps on our bathroom floor. There must be a presence there.
Yeah, I don't know if saging helps get rid of spirits and things like that.
Well,
I suppose people like to have something to feel that you're doing.
Well, what
to
they
help.
used to do years ago, if you were frightened, they put a bowl of water in each corner with salt, so it eliminates anything evil.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things like that, but I think basically good thoughts can't, good energy usually clears anything negative.
Well, obviously that child's quite psychic.
Kids,
sense
kids
things.
do see things. I remember I worked on that program, The Sixth Sense, didn't I? With the promotions on the Sixth Sense movie, and I had to talk a lot on the radio at those times about children that see dead people, with the objective of plugging the movie at the time, and it's amazing how many people people were ringing in with their stories, just like people are telling us now. But it's amazing how many people have children that have some form of psychic experience. I mean, look at the other day when we were out by the lake with Damien. He went into the graveyard there, and he says, "A little girl, they're hurt. The people here hurt." And he's 4 years old. And then he takes us round the grave, and little girl here, he said, or something,
Well,
didn't he?
He's very highly intelligent
And he points to the
super
grave.
sensitive. And he sneezed in front of a cross, didn't he? And I thought, well, did that person die that had pneumonia or something? And then he said, there's a lady over there, 100. And no way could have seen that.
Yeah, and then we went to the grave and it said 100. She was 100.
Amazing.
So he knew everybody. He knew about all the people in the grave. And he's pointing under the ground, saying, "People hurt. People hurt."
Yeah, didn't Sharavana say that in a previous incarnation he was a guru?
Yeah, some sort of Brahmin, he said. But fascinating that children just know. I mean, that video is on the other channel. We've got 2 channels now. We've got this channel, which is the Craig channel, as it were, and we've also got the Craig and Jane's Psychic Lifestyle channel. So if you have a look at that one, you can have a look at all the other videos, and Domenico's channel as well. So if you see that in the description below, go and join those as well. Go and like those ones as like this channel, and subscribe, and you'll get the updates from those videos as well.
Kerry, we know Kerry. Yesterday, my son Ethan and his pals were sleeping in the dining room. They had opened up the curtains at around 6:30 a.m. and were looking out. Meanwhile, our cat had entered the bedroom and squeezed through the front window, obviously slipped and fell down. Ethan and Liam instantly saw this and ran up to inform Mike and I. We had been asleep.
Interesting. So they basically knew the cat had fallen, I suppose, what you're saying there, isn't it? And you're saying, is this a synchronicity, sort of like a coincidence, or were they picking something up? I think the kids probably picked something up. I mean, it makes survival sense, doesn't it, that we connect with our kids in some way, because we don't have the verbal connection often with kids when they're younger. So we kind of have to sense each other on a more gut feeling way. That's perhaps why we get connected.
Well, it sounds like these boys are in tune with the cat, doesn't it?
It sounds like it. Well, they would be, because it forms like a social group. Because I think, if telepathic connections, for example, work, they're going to work on the group, or they're going to work on the tribe, aren't they? You're going to connect with those people that you're close with. That's why, people you care about or love are people that you would connect much more with your telepathic abilities, but with a complete stranger, not much would happen. So I think it's part of a group survival. So that cat story, it's kind of a part of a group survival. That's part of the little group mind, as it were.
The black cat too.
Yeah. Kids, I think, hook into this a lot.
Yeah, Craig.
Hi, sir. When I was a kid, I saw a man who went to the temple daily and worshipped the god, and got killed by a bull at a particular location in Himachal, where the bull hit that man at his liver. Same mark on me. Okay, so you're saying you went to the temple. So you went to the place where someone had been killed and left the mark, and you're saying here then that as a child you felt that you were the incarnation of the man that died there at that temple, I guess.
How could that be possible? That he saw the man, he saw it happen in front of him.
He
was alive when he saw it.
I didn't quite understand it, even though I read it. Sorry. So he's carrying the mark of somebody.
It's like a birthmark in the same place. That has been known that there's marks before. Perhaps that's happened to.
These birthmarks are interesting, though.
Perhaps that's happened to him in a previous incarnation.
And sometimes I think people do carry birthmarks that are marks and scars from something that happened traumatic in previous lives, and maybe when we see the birthmarks on children, we can think, did they have a traumatic life of some part, Can you talk about birthmarks and past lives?
We can talk about
we are already,
birthmarks.
funny enough, you're picking up on this P88 because, we've had marks on our bodies because we've both gone now actually, but we both had marks on the back of our necks, didn't we? And when we met, we were talking about, and Danielle was talking about having the feeling that we were attacked from behind and being hacked with swords from behind us.
You could have had
heads chopped
in France.
Yeah, and we both had the same thing, talking about France. And I remember describing my vision to you, and yours was the same. I remember we were near a slope that went down very hard into a moat-like area, and we were being tapped. We couldn't move. So who knows? And often people, when they have past life regressions, will recall traumatic experiences that seem to, correspond with markings on the body. And, maybe all the illnesses and things we bring forward have something connected with past life problems, like people that have skin problems and things often have described that they've had previous lives where they've been burnt at the stake and things like that. So Mickey Bailey saying, when my daughter was 4, she would tell me who I was in a past life, what I did, who she was, and our relationship in the past life. Wow, this is interesting, Mickey. It's a shame we can't do these by video. My daughter would see people in trees or see images like movies.
I always think with past lives, you must have proof of evidential proof.
Yeah, we do. But the thing there that's interesting, though, isn't it, is that she's only a 4-year-old child is talking about past lives. How did the child even know about past lives? 4 years old, you don't discuss anything about belief systems or religions or anything, really. You're just getting on with playing and things like that. And there she is there talking about how she was connected with her parents in a past life.
Well, perhaps she's come back in this.
So I say we become reborn in groups, I think, a lot, and there's a lot of cases, a lot of famous cases. I can't remember the full details of them all now, but where people have, particularly in India, where the society is much more open to the idea that people could be reborn, where children have gone back and they've spoken to the husbands and wives from their previous lives, and claimed the business back, all sorts of fascinating things, obviously a lot of possibility of misuse there, because you could sort of the children could be coaxed into doing these things.
Well, it's interesting, like Bernardi, you could do past lives and what caste system you came from.
Yeah, but I still think kids do seem to have this connection that much clearer than we do as adults with our rational minds. So Miranda's saying, when my daughter was about 2, I walked into my daughter's room and she was playing with pastel coloured orbs and calling out my grandmother's name, who had been gone for about 10 years. Wow. Yeah, you see, these things happen, don't they? I mean, kids do see dead people. I mean, I remember when I was a child, I saw my granddad, that's my granddad on my dad's side of the family, my granddad Parker, was stood in my room at night. I used to always have all sorts of things at night. My mum used to think I was nutty because I was always seeing things in my room, and I was so adamant about what I saw that she used to get frightened by it. But this particular time I saw my granddad stood in the bedroom, and they hadn't told us kids that granddad had died. They'd been keeping it from us, and he died a couple of days earlier. And I was saying, granddad's in my bedroom, mum, and of course they were shocked because they hadn't told us. And I saw him as clear as day, And I remember also saw my dog, Biddy, come into the, my nan's dog. But when the dog died, I saw the dog in the bedroom too. So, and that's as a little child, and you don't understand it, and it all seems quite natural to you as a child, and you ask the parents and they get freaked out.
I remember seeing my grandmother. We weren't those days allowed to go to funerals because children weren't allowed. And I must have been 13 years old. And I actually saw her come into my bedroom because I was really close to her. And I remember sobbing. And she had this long white robe on, and she had like this tassel, purple. And she looked like she'd just come in from the spirit hairdressers because her hair was just so. And she said, "Why are you crying?" "I've not left you." And I was so shocked really to see her. And
I saw 13.
Yeah, when you're going through puberty, that's when things happen. And then I saw this bright light, and then she suddenly faded out.
Yeah, that one with my granddad happened to me at 6 years old. I think it's even more confusing for a 6-year-old because people don't talk about it. They don't talk about death at all, do they? Death is something that's just pushed aside. So Leah's saying here, hello from Greece. Hello, Yazoo to you, Leah. I got out of my body at the age of 9, went through the wall, looked at the scenery around, floating, and got back into my body again. Never happened again to me.
Astral travel.
Yeah, and I think, like you saying, 9 years old, I think we get a lot of these type of things.
Different ages.
Usually around adolescence time, actually, with those out-of-body experiences. A lot of people have described it then. And we kind of perhaps we're more accepting as kids,
Yeah.
I think people...
Be interesting to see if anybody's got indigo children or rainbow children.
Yeah, that indigo children thing was a bit wacky in some respects, I thought. I think it was in the 1970s that all came about. I was looking it up earlier. Nancy Ann Touch or something, or Nancy Ann something. I can't remember her name, but she I know, I never touched me.
You just made that up. That surname. I know you have. You couldn't think of her name. So
Tap. I do actually remember it with Nancy Ann Tap or something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But she was a woman that wrote about auras and things like that in the 70s, and people kind of cottoned on in it during the 90s. With this idea that purple auras around children, and more children were being born with these purple auras or indigo auras, meant that there was a whole new sort of like John Wyndham's Midwich Cuckoos type of thing, that there was a whole new breed of humanity being born in these children, and that, and people were jumping on this. But from what I saw about it, people were kind of using it as an excuse for bad behavior in children. Saying, "Oh, my child's got behavioural problems, but he's special. He's an indigo child," and that's what I think went wrong with that.
Right, goodness, is it? My daughter told me she had sleep paralysis and that she wanted to return to her body, and that people around her not want her to go back. That's happened a lot to children, hasn't it?
Yeah, sleep paralysis is a condition actually.
The REMs in the brain,
and I think. I had it a bit when I was a child too, where you.
What haven't you had as a child?
Yeah, but no, that's sleep paralysis. Have you had any sleep paralysis?
No, not lately.
No, I had it, and you laying in bed and you cannot move your body. I had that as a child. I haven't had it as an adult, but you just can't move, and it's a very frightening condition because people carry on dreaming and see things going on around in the room, and it's where the back of the brain doesn't wake up quick enough. There's part of the brain stops the body thrashing around while you're asleep, so that you're not, you're dreaming and running. You don't start running in bed. So there's this bit that keeps the body still. And if that wakes up a bit slow, it means you wake up and you can't move. You feel paralyzed. It's a common complaint, actually. Kids that sleepwalk often get that same condition.
Did you have that as a child as well?
Yeah.
I thought you did.
So that child there has probably got thanks for helping with it. Yeah. And yeah, so it's nice that you're kind of aware of these type of things anyway, but it's worth remembering that sometimes that's also a problem for some kids.
Years ago, going back to the 17th century, when you talk about sleep paralysis, they would have thought it was an incubine that's actually held you down from the devil, that you couldn't move.
Yeah, old hags, they used to call it, didn't they? Old hag syndrome, because quite often people will see a witch type old hag sat on their chest.
You couldn't move.
And a common problem, because obviously it's a terrifying, frightening experience, and particularly for kids. So it's worth understanding it if your child does get that.
If we are psychic in the life, does this mean we're advanced in our spiritual existence? We'll be psychic now forever, as we can't get unawakened again.
Unawakened again, yeah, definitely. I would say that anything you develop spiritually is going to be with you forever. Anything you develop in this world is always going to be subject to change. But the things we develop in ourselves spiritually, not necessarily psychically, but spiritually, our spiritual state are, and I would include in spiritual things like our goodness as human beings, our abilities, our kindness, our humor, our compassion, our love for others. Those are all the things that I would say are the most important things, even higher than psychic, that are the things that us as human beings will continue to take with us. But if you develop a psychic gift, that psychic gift stays. You won't lose that city power as long as those other spiritual things are there as well to support it. Because remember, the psychic gifts are secondary. They're just perceptual things. The most important things is who we are as people. So once you're awakened, you can't unawaken. I've seen that. I can't unsee it. And that will stay with you through life and through future lives as well. My son used to tell me he is my father. Well, that might be a frightening one, isn't it? I know what her father was like. 4 years old says, it's in the way, Mummy, do you remember when we were little and I was your daddy? Wow, these are really good. Look how many there are for the number of people that are linking in that have these stories. I think one of my sons was my father in a previous life. Do you think that we reincarnate with the same earthly families?
I believe we do at times.
I think generally we do. I think we have a group soul.
There might be a few hundred years in between.
And there might be quite a lot of people in that group soul. And that group soul might also, not everybody would have incarnated at the same time, is another thought. That some of the people that we really know well are there in the spirit world and haven't incarnated with us this time around.
When we first met Sharavana Baba, who's a guru, he said, I've waited for you many incarnations. He said, we used to play together in a village as children in India. Do you remember that?
Yeah. He said, didn't we make a snappy remark to that? I seem to remember we said something.
I said
something snappy.
Yes, I said to him, I remember now in a past life you owed me some money, so it's payback time. And he laughed.
Yeah, I remember now, yeah.
Katie
Partridge. My daughter, when she was 3, said, I chose you as parents. I played with you in heaven. Wow, this is interesting, isn't it? Daddy came down. Katie? I remember Katie. Yes, I remember we met you years and years ago in Sorrento. I remember that. Yeah, Daddy came down to a place. He had to wait there, then come down to Earth. Then Mummy came down next. Isn't that amazing? What an interesting story that one is, Katie.
I believe children choose their parents.
They consciously chose their parents. I mean, I think you have to be pretty advanced soul to be able to make conscious choices about what your next incarnation is.
Remember who owned the Hard Rock Cafe? Remember his story, reincarnation? How he lost his brother?
Isaac Tigret?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, Craig.
I don't remember.
Well, he believed his parents all his life blamed him for losing his brother. And he believed that in the previous life, he had to come and save his brother.
Did he?
Yeah.
Because Isaac Tigret was he used to own the Hard Rock Cafes, and he became a Sai Baba devotee. So a lot of his stuff is out there on the web, isn't it? About his descriptions of incredible experiences.
And then he used to think, why did I choose these people as my parents when they've blamed me all my life because of my brother?
Okay. I think there are connections about why we're born with certain people in our lives. And I think we're not just born with all the people that are the people we like. I think we're also born with all the people where there's lots of unresolved stuff as well. So 2 things draw people together, both love on the one hand and karma to sort out on the other hand.
Love is the highest. Love is the highest thing. That's why we're all here. And lessons.
But it's nice to think that kids kind of intuitively know you at the start, you know, when we're little. You know?
Storm.
This never happened to me as a child. Why? It's because I'm so negative. Wow. Well, that's a pretty negative thing to say in the first place, actually, Storm, if you think about it.
You can get help for it, Storm, in this life.
I mean, I think everybody, you know, just because something hasn't happened to you doesn't
mean it's not
it's
true.
Not true, you know, and it's the same with lots of things, really, you know. I think you just have to accept life as it is and roll with it, you know, and not keep worrying about, oh, you know, why haven't I met the most perfect person in life, or why aren't I rich, you know? Well, you know, it doesn't matter. Just run with it. Your life is, you're dealt a set of cards, and you play the game. Life is a game. Play it.
It's all
That's the thing to remember. My goodness. Thank you for subscribing to us like this. That's very kind, because you can actually become like a super subscriber and make a little donation as you go. And any donations you make, actually, both for this and our patron system, all goes towards A, getting the channel going, B, getting a spiritual center and a place where we can make the channel into more like a center, and then C, as we do some spiritual work, helping kids and things like that as
cows
well. So all of it together goes into this foundation. So it's not going into our pocket, but it does help us to spread our spiritual work and also help us to do a little bit of charitable work as well. But it is going on, and thank you for those of you that have become patrons, and keep subscribing, because it helps us to do all sorts of good work, we hope. Lisa Parr, do you think many of us had a connection but never had any open-minded adults growing up to nurture our spirituality? My dad, from a Catholic background, would tell me that when you're dead, you're dead.
Well, he must have had a shock when he went out.
Probably, and that's not normally the teachings of the Catholics. Actually, that sounds more like his teachings of an atheist. So he was done for either way, wasn't he? Really?
Well, they like to see you going to hell and everything, because it's good for business, isn't it?
But I think you're right, though. I mean, more seriously, you are right, because you know, if you've got an environment around you that helps, that recognizes and nurtures spirituality of whatever type, then you grow as a person, don't you? I mean, and every talent can be squashed if a person is negative to you all the time. You know, I mean, whether it be a musical talent, artistic talent, an intellectual talent, or a spiritual one. You know, and I think we should always try to nurture spirituality, particularly not just in children, but in everybody around us, really, because you know it's such an important thing. It's the most important thing. It's why we're here. Zully, that's an unusual name.
Sounds African.
Yeah. You tell them what you are seeing, and the dreams and parents many times don't believe their child. That happened to me. Yeah, disbelief. It's awful. You know, I've been quite lucky that I suppose. I don't think the parents understood you as a child, but they didn't squash it. But wouldn't take much to squash a child's spirituality and their sensitivity, their psychic gifts, and so forth. I mean, in India, for example, we've had those people giving the stories from India. You know, it's kind of accepted that there is such a thing as reincarnation. So when a child talks about it, the parents want to hear, you know, oh, really? What happened in that previous life? You know, so it brings it out. The child could be reinforcing misconceptions, true, on one hand, but then sometimes it gives us much more a way into finding out about these experiences, you know. And I think we should be more open-minded. You know, in the West, we've lost our spirituality. We've lost our connection with the psychic senses. We've lost our connection with nature as well. You know, it's all material world, isn't it? It's all material things, and this is very limited. And I think we forget the fantastic potential that we all have, and those potentials, you know, should be nurtured as children, particularly extrasensory perception, because surely this is a fantastic gift. Just because a few stupid scientists can't believe anything that can't be measured in their with their tools and their methodology, these things of consciousness are bigger than that. You can't. We don't have the tools to measure it. But those of us that have had these experiences and tried to prove these experiences through our work psychically, know them to be true. So we should encourage it in our children. We should encourage kids to develop their abilities, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Nikki, hello. I've been seeing spirits since I was 10. Even my kids have some psychic gifts too. Hello from the Philippines.
See, it's an international thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
You
all
know,
around the
we've got
world.
people here from all around the world. Even Tinkerbell, you know, even Tinkerbell has come to tell us all of these things. Sorry, Andrew. You have to choose a new picture unless the kids have done it for you. My sister used to see the old ladies who used to live in our house. Oh wow! When we were children, I never have. I never have. Is it normal for some of the children in the
Only
family to
some.
be sensitive? Oh, is it normal? Sorry, it's a bit, I know it's not easy typing these things sometimes. Is it normal for some of the children um, of the family to be sensitive?
I think it's normal.
Yeah, I mean, old ladies who lived in the house. I mean,
They probably love children.
the whole of spiritualism news started with the Fox sisters, who were children, and they were seeing this spirit around, a
And the
tinker,
knocking.
and there was a knocking every time the children came into the room. There was a knocking. This was the advent of spiritualism, and it became a huge story in the time. And eventually, they did actually find the children were talking about an old tinker, and they found the body of the tinker. I think it was buried in the fireplace or something unusual. And there was absolute consternation about it. But those early experiences of the Fox sisters, which were also under great scrutiny by skeptics, saying the kids were knocking their knees or making clicky noises and things. But, you know, kids had quite an, you know, the whole of spiritualism was set up from the experiences of a few psychic kids. And Conan Doyle, with all his fairies and things like that, and his Tinkerbells. So,
Yeah.
Renata, in France lives a girl who claims to be reincarnation of Baba Vanga. She has partial blindness. Oh, really? Does she? Apparently, she also has clairvoyant talents. Well, Baba Vanga was the Romanian or Czechoslovakian. I can't remember which one she was, and had quite an amazing skills. Mikhail Gorbachev went to see her, actually, I believe, and she gave him a prophecy about the fall of the Iron Curtain. So if she is the reincarnation of that person, then fascinating. But the problem is, you know, I know so many people who are the reincarnations of famous people.
Henry
VIII,
Anne
lots of Anne
Boleyn's.
Boleyns, isn't there? Lots and lots of Anne Boleyns, and lots of people that would like to claim to be this guru or that guru. And how do you know, really? You know, how do you know? I mean, even me, I've had those things come through the nadis. They said I was different people in previous lives, and you know, I think, well, perhaps they were right about all the other stuff they said was 100%, so therefore I can accept that. But even then, I can't prove anything, you know.
Well, perhaps what we were talking about, the clairvoyance with that blind lady, she did have high perceptions and she did sense things, because blind people, their perceptions are quite high.
Because Baba Vanga was blind, of course.
Yes.
But so fascinating. But let's hope something comes from that. I'm sure, you know, all these great souls from the past would reincarnate again, you know, and hopefully they're becoming in these dark days that we live through at the moment.
Ken and Michelle Shelton, what can you do to help your children not be afraid of nighttime spirits? I should say that it's just angels blowing kisses to you and tucking you up at night. Nothing to be afraid.
Yeah, I think the kids often pick up on the parents' fear. Like when I used to see things as a child, my mum was scared, so it would make me a bit scared, and you know that was the wrong thing. Really, you want to encourage the gift.
Yeah, you do, and never be afraid of anything. And if they're really frightened, just ask it to go away.
I think with spiritual things, we all should develop a spirit of fearlessness. You know, I mean, there's lots of silly TV programs that try to encourage fear of the dark, basically, and it's playing upon those childhood fears that you had. You know,
Well, it's fear of the unknown, isn't it?
so I think so. Yeah, treat it as natural. I mean, you know, we have with our kids. Our kids take the Michael out of us, really, don't they? Rather than anything.
I think I knew that.
Gren, hi, love from South Africa. My 3 kids all see spirits, but it's kind of natural, not anything out of the ordinary, like the other senses. I'm trying to say it's very low key. Yeah, and in fact, really, I mean, is it such an extraordinary thing to have these gifts we have? You know, I mean, for me, it's completely natural, and it is for you, isn't it, Jane? I mean, it's,
well, you're born like it.
you know, I don't think if there's anything weird. I mean,
It's natural.
sometimes you get these journalists come to interview you, and oh, you know, what's it like? Do you read each other's mind? You know, do you know this and that? Do you know if he's up to this or she's up to that? You know, and I think, oh God, blimey, you know, where's their brains? You know, it really is just a natural thing. And I think, like you're doing there, you know, if you encourage your children, then it's quite a natural thing.
It's got a
And
nice
then
energy.
it will come out in the future, won't
That
it?
lady's got a nice energy.
Yeah, and I think also, if we all did this more, we might have a better world, because I think a world with a world of us all accepting the idea of an afterlife, not as some punishment thing from religion or anything, but as a natural thing that all people, good or bad, survive, would give us a better perspective on life generally. And if the next generation that come along through the children are taught that it's okay, that there is spirit world, that the spirit world can be connected to, I think we'd have a damn sight better world, actually.
Yeah.
You know,
If
particularly
everyone
if you took all
was
the
kind.
fear element. It was
Who's-
hijacked by religion in the past.
Who's Ascended Masters? Nice to see my 2 favourite psychics mates again. Good vibes, good vibes. Is that Phil Bianca?
I don't know. That's from the Ascendant Masters. So obviously the Ascendant Masters are looking down upon this moment and thinking that we're wonderful. But anyway, thank you, Ascendant Masters. It's nice that you popped in.
And what about a few seraphims as well thrown in?
We'll have the angels next. We might have God himself.
The seraphims are higher than angels.
Yeah, so it's quite fun, this, isn't it? It's nice you all sort of come and join in. This is kind of like a shared family in a way, this, isn't it? A spiritual family when people connect like this, particularly if you're coming to us regularly like this and enjoying these Friday night
Yeah,
chats.
that was amazing, child, at 2, you know?
So when my oldest daughter was almost 2, she said to me, my great-grandmother was my mother and my great-grandfather was my father. That was her first perfect, complete sentence as well.
That's amazing, isn't
Goodness
it?
gracious. So she said that, so 2 years old.
She must have savants.
God, goodness gracious, that's amazing. I remember Chantal's first sentence was vampire. Well, not first. Danielle's first sentence was vampire, being encouraged by Chantal, wasn't she?
Yeah.
First word, vampire.
And I can remember Justin when he was 3 years old. His great-grandfather, he saw in like a dark cloud and telling him that it was his birthday. And I think he came running out and said it was his great-grandfather's birthday. And we checked it out and he was absolutely right.
Oh, really? God, it's interesting doing this. I learn all sorts of things myself,
Yeah,
you know,
it's true.
stories I've not heard before. Yeah, so I think families are forever, aren't they? Families are forever. Celia says, my 16-year-old son told me that this is limbo and we have a job to do and then to wait to move on. Did he actually call it limbo, Celia? That seems interesting, because that's more of a Catholic type of phrase. But in a way, I suppose this is just a
Waiting room.
Yeah, we're passing through. You know, life is a bridge, pass over it, do not build on it, as they say, because it is a kind of a limbo, I suppose. Yeah, I remember. I notice your house is all white. Is that for reasons relating to your abilities?
Yes, I'm an angel of light.
No, I got a cheap job lot, actually.
No, you
Nick.
did not.
Yeah, which
I
is
bought
a
it.
cheapskate from my point of view. Actually, it's ivory, it's crown ivory.
Oh, you don't have to give them May.
Right, let's see if we can get some free paint.
You'll get free paint.
Sponsors.
No, I
It's
like
crown ivory.
contemporary and I like white. I like clean lines, but it's just I like beautiful things.
Yeah, I
I
think
just like nice
I think it's
things.
nicer to have your home. If you start painting all your home in bright colours, I always think what draws your eye. If you paint the radiators red, your eyes are going to go
Well,
straight to the radiators. It's
well,
just
I
not the
think
best
it's
thing to look at, is
I
it?
think it's
You
personal
know?
choice what people like. There's nothing wrong with people painting their house in different colours. I just like creams and whites.
Yeah. So you don't have to keep to the children theme. I think it was fascinating. We've had so many children comments here. When I was 8, I woke in tears because my dog died. Grandpa was in my room telling me my dog was all right. My parents were in the living room with the family, and Grandpa had died. No, he didn't. He was in my room. Oh, well, that's a great one, isn't it? So basically, you're telling your grandfather came to you when your dog died, and your parents didn't believe you that he was in the room with you.
We obviously came to give you reassurance about the dog.
The thing I think most interesting with all these little stories, and it's hard to put a big long story in a couple of sentences like you are, but there's so many of them. You know, I mean, we've not got 2 million people watching this as we're live. I mean, we've got a few hundred, I expect, but that's a hell of a lot of stories, and it just shows you how commonplace psychic experiences are, particularly when you're children.
Well, children, their thoughts and perceptions are pure, aren't they? Well, most children, when they're young, so
Yeah,
they don't lie, do they?
I think our biggest enemy, in some respects, is our rational mind. You know, we all value it as a thing that helps us create the world, helps us create science, helps us with engineering and mathematics and the rest of it. But actually, it's a fantastic tool, but at what a high expense we pay with the rest of our perceptions if that sort of clamps down all those things, those intuitive gifts that we have, all of so many of us anyway, from when we were kids. And I reckon everybody has a certain amount of psychic insight when you're children, really. If you think back
Well,
to when you were kids,
when
you
you're a
know.
child, you get a sense who to talk to, not to, and sometimes you might sense that that person's not very nice, so keep away. So you get
Yeah.
it from your solar plexus
A lot
here.
of work being done also with mothers and babies, and a lot of telepathy experiments done with mothers and babies. And a baby's heartbeat and a mother's heartbeat will synchronize often, even though they're in different rooms and separate places. And if a baby's heartbeat moves and changes through stress or something like that,
Yeah,
the mother's heartbeat will speed up too. So
yeah.
the body is creating a sort of
I
telepathy
just want to say
between
to you
mother and
that,
baby.
Nicholas, you should see the rest of the house. I've got chandeliers.
Yeah, we'll have to give you a tour sometime. Over the top. I didn't buy the
Lovely.
stuff. So Anne's got one here. What do you think about the crystal children that are supposed to be born now? It is said that they are new souls, i.e., not reincarnated. Anyway, thank you for your positive vibes.
Crystal children.
That's a new one to me, actually, Anne, to be honest. And there's always going to be these things. There's fads in it, these type of things, you know. Now there's these children that have never been born before. Angelic beings are being born as children. Well, I'm sure there are like that all the time beings amongst us that are born, particularly at special
Well,
times.
I know my grandmother
But
used to
it
say,
becomes
for
fashion.
everybody that dies, a new child comes into the world.
Yeah. But it's a bit like, but what she's saying there, it's almost a bit like when they all got hooked onto this idea of Indigo Children thing, isn't it? And now it's crystal Indigo Children and things like
Well, all
that.
children are beautiful, whatever they
Yeah,
are.
but they're saying that there's a special children being born into the world. What proof is
Well,
there
when
of
Craig,
that? That's
you
what
know,
I'd
when
like to know
Craig
for
was
that.
born, he was an amber child.
Yeah, yeah. I was a snow child actually because when I was born, there was more. You couldn't get to the hospital because it was the biggest snowstorm for centuries or
It
something.
would be.
I think God was trying to stop me coming here.
Yeah.
Nana says, my 18-month-old daughter asked for her cup, went over to the fridge, took out a bottle of milk and wrote the name of an elderly neighbour all over my floor. I don't think I quite understand that one, do you?
Well, what she meant, she had the cup and filled it with milk and wrote it all over the floor with the milk, I presume.
So she's writing the name of the neighbour over the floor.
Yeah.
So perhaps there's some sort of connection there with
Or
the
perhaps
neighbour.
the neighbour influenced the child's mind.
Yeah.
Who knows?
We're going on to other questions now. When will the truth about UFOs come out?
Tonight.
I
11
don't know.
o'clock.
Well, you're assuming there's a truth that's hidden about UFOs, which probably is the case. Trump certainly seems to be onto it, didn't he? He said a few interesting things about UFOs some
What'd he
while
say?
back, I believe. I'm not sure. It's a while back, so I'm a bit vague on that. And there's lots of, and they are talking at the moment, aren't they, about releasing a lot of new information,
Yeah.
and making it much more open, so that there's not all
I
the
believe
conspiracy
there
theories.
is UFOs.
I think there is. The problem is, if you're not completely open about it, everybody ends up asking questions and fantasizing about it, and we start thinking about things, that information that probably isn't there, which then masks any real stuff that is there, you know. So I'm not saying there's not something there. I just think that too much of it gets swamped by
Well, we could all be living in a time capsule when you think of it.
Yeah, too much guesswork goes on, and of course, too many people jump on board with
Yeah.
excuse me. Jump on board with it, but that doesn't mean to say it isn't. I certainly think, I believe in ancient aliens, definitely. Whether they're with us now or not, I don't know. I suppose if they were there ancient times, they would be now, really.
Well, someone actually thought you were a lizard, didn't they?
Someone thought I was an alien because I had psychic powers. They thought I was a lizard man, didn't they? I was going to get myself a rubber tongue to sort of spit out when she came round. Yeah. My 18th-old daughter asked for. Oh, we got that one. We've done that one, didn't we?
Yeah.
We've done that one already. Yeah. So it's quite interesting. I think. I don't know whether. What do you think about the missing teenagers that disappeared in the 1960s in the Stonehenge circle? Oh, right. Yeah. The police found their belongings, including passports, as they were international tourists. I vaguely remember something about the 60s. I can't remember, for some reason I can't remember much about the 60s.
I don't think you remember anything about this year either.
I can just about remember the 70s.
Yeah, they suddenly,
I don't know enough about it.
Yes, they mysteriously disappeared because they went up Stonehenge. You know, when they have like when the sun sets and
solstice and things.
And suddenly, people's theory was, did a spaceship take them off?
Really? Yeah. I don't know about that, but there's been some weird disappearances, haven't there? I mean, at the moment, that's
Well, like the Bermuda Triangle, when people and ships disappear.
Yeah.
And then aeroplanes. There's lots of things.
I mean, on Sky at the moment, there's that program, The Unexplained, which you can see me on if you want to. If you want to have a look at it.
That explains a lot, doesn't it?
I was on the Nostradamus one. I can't remember which episode it was. Dark Prophecies, I think they called it. But there's some good stuff on that. If you want to go and watch that series, it's well worth a look, actually. Oh, yeah. Thank you. It was quick. Yeah. So yeah, go and have a look at that, because that was quite interesting, and that Unexplained program is looking into a lot of stuff like that. I was really quite impressed by they were nice people, nice manner, nice attitude, and it's good to meet producers of programs
that take you serious,
that take this type of thing seriously. And there's a lot more of that happening nowadays too. Not just that program, but other ones too. I mean, when we first went on telly, God, they used to, take the biscuit, didn't they, with us?
Yeah,
God, the things they had us doing, and stupid things, idiotic
you could
journalists.
Never be yourself.
Never allowed to and it was illegal to actually demonstrate mediumship in those days. It was illegal. It was necromism, they called it. Necromism, and raising the dead. And therefore came under the Christian rules that held us down. So we're coming up to the last questions now, remember, guys. So, and like and share this video. It does help us. If you share it on your Facebook page, for example, even now, even as it's finishing, share it on your Facebook page, and your friends will get to know it, and they'll get more people piling in that and it helps us to get this message out, because I think, what we all kind of believe here, what we all kind of think about, it's important, isn't it? Isn't it important that it gets out there? So if you comment, it helps it go up video. If you like it, it helps us to get a wider audience. And if you share it, even better, particularly on your Facebook pages and things, it also helps to spread the message. Not that we got any real sort of religious message, but this sort of idea that these things are natural. These things are just, we're just ordinary people with extraordinary gifts.
Our time is our message, Craig.
The what?
Our time is our message.
Our time.
is our message now.
All right. My
Now,
life
not-
is my message. That's
Yes.
what Andy said.
Yes, but now is our
Yeah.
message, not afterlife message. Now.
Yeah. So yeah, it's important that that you help us. So it's great. And if you really like us, then become a patron of the channel, because if you become a patron, you can actually join our little community behind the scenes. You can post messages to and get answers. You see extra little videos like that one we were talking about, Damien, earlier, where we're in the graveyard and he has a look around and follows the spirit child. That's on the Patreon channel, but it's also on our secondary channel that you can also subscribe to, and also Domenico's channel down there too. So don't forget, subscribe to this channel and look in the description below for some of our other channels too, if you like this type of topic generally. All right, Marilyn from Hollywood, or Marilyn Hollywood. Are the souls being increased in numbers since the population has exploded into the billions? So she's talking about reincarnation there, because there's more people alive on Earth than there has been in the whole history of humanity.
Well, perhaps it's the right time for all these people to.
Well, this is what some of the skeptics say about reincarnation. They say, well, there's more people alive now that could ever have incarnated as humans, because the number of humans that have lived
But the
on this
universe
Earth
is vast.
is small.
Nobody can show us where the universe is.
Well, perhaps
it's vast.
souls incarnate perhaps from other planets. Perhaps
Mars.
we've lived on multiple planets, or maybe souls are coming up the ladder of evolution, metempsychosis. Maybe people who are animals in a past life are now incarnating in human form. so that's how I'd answer that one. So that's how I'd take that one. So anyway, I think that's the I don't know if we've got any more questions now, but I think we're coming to the end now. So anyway, we're going to say thanks to you all now. I'll go one more. Who is the most psychic child you have heard of?
I don't think I have, to be honest. I think all psychic children are incredible.
Good question, though. I could have.
Yeah.
See, I'd have to look up the history. There's some good case books of psychic children.
Joan of Arc?
Yeah, it depends
Joan
what
of
you
Arc?
Sai Baba. Depends what you call psychic, doesn't it? Because
Sharavana Baba?
a lot of people are born with spiritual powers.
Yogananda?
Yeah, Yogananda. That's incredible. And Babaji, so many people were born with extraordinary power. I think a psychic child is really it's going to become a psychic human being. And I think we learn these gifts through suffering in previous life, actually. And that's where we get it. And also, even some of the scientists like Tesla was psychic. Yeah, I'm sure he was. He had he invented the alternating current and things like that. Also, discovered the alternating current and pushed it forward as being a way of being able to push electricity at longer distances. But people like that, certain people, have gifts, don't they? I love Jane's outfit in beautiful pink tones and scarves.
Thank you.
Yes. Oh, I didn't notice you were wearing that.
I don't need you to notice, just my fans.
I don't know what it is. Men, when they go on the TV, always wear the same thing, But women always have to wear something different.
You've changed
I changed
3
my
times.
shirt. I did, because I looked silly in that other shirt. I was so tight. I looked like Billy Bunter. I looked like I was about to explode like something on the Alien.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for answering my question. You love Jane's pink silk. Dupata, is that what it's called? And sparkly curtie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what they're called, is it?
I'll stand up, shall I?
Are you going to give us a twirl? Oh, very nice. Pink defo suits you, Jane. Bless you, Siram. I'll wear pink next time. I'm not having this. I'm not having your own shiny Jane. I'll have to wear pink.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we're going to have to say goodbye now. Anyway, guys, thank you for joining us again. Don't forget, share it with people and have a look at our other channels and become a patron if you really like what we're doing. So we'll say bye for now then. Okay. Bye.
Hello, Boo. Oh, no.